Kai Havertz's wild celebration after scoring against his former team shocked the entire Chelsea fanbase. Snake, traitor, Judas. These were the comments of Chelsea fans. How did this happen? Why did a player who won the Champions League with Chelsea decide to disrespect his former club? And let's start with Lukaku. Lukaku was first signed by Chelsea in 2011 when he was just 18 years old, but that was not the first time he had come to Chelsea. I need to mention the first time because it was the time that Lukaku gave the world the impression that Chelsea was his dream club. In the previous year, when he was 17 years and still in school, they visited Stamford Bridge with his classmates. He was so overwhelmed. He looked like someone who loved Chelsea so much. Chelsea signed him the next year, but the club was stuck with strikers: Drogba, Torres, Kalou, Sturridge. So he didn't really get a chance. 10 years later, after Chelsea won the Champions League, Chelsea broke their transfer record as they signed Lukaku for a second time for 113 million euros.
Hi guys, this is Romelu. I'm glad to be back. It's been a long 10 years, but I'm finally back, so I'm going to take you around Cobham, see if I still recognize the same spots.
The feeling was now it was the right time. Lukaku had developed into one of the best strikers in the world, and Chelsea lacked a proper number 9. This was a match made in heaven. He was seen as the missing puzzle to make Chelsea compete for the Premier League title. He started very well with 4 goals in his 5 appearances for the club. He was living the dream, or so we thought. During the festive season, as Chelsea usually struggle, Lukaku struggled for form and was even benched at times. He then decided to do an interview with Sky Italy.
Non sono contento con la situazione, questo è normale. Penso che il mister ha fatto una scelta di giocare un altro modulo e io deve sono.
He even went a step further and said he would like to go back to Inter. Chelsea was not very happy with this. The club had just broken their transfer record to bring him to the club of his dreams, and he is already thinking about going back to Inter. He made a video apologizing to everyone, but the harm had already been done. He was loaned back to Inter the next season. The next player on my list is Oscar. The younger fans may not know Oscar, apart from seeing his goal against Juventus when Chelsea wish him a happy birthday on Instagram. The older fans will ask me, how did he betray the club? To give it a more relatable context, it would be somewhat Mbappe promising to sign for Real Madrid but choosing to go to Saudi Arabia, or Palmer going to Saudi Arabia next year when Al Ittihad bid £300 million for him. Chelsea signed Oscar in 2012. His performance the previous year in the FIFA Under-20 World Cup final
is the first player in history to score a hat-trick in the World Cup final.
Is when he announced himself to the world. That goal against Juventus was only his second start for Chelsea in what was a good 4.5-year career at Chelsea. But you see, when Oscar was just 25 years old and in his prime, that's when there came a problem. As I already mentioned, right now there is the Saudi Pro League, but back then there was Chinese Super League. Shanghai Port came calling. They made Oscar an offer of an insane amount of money. He had to choose between Chelsea and his football career at the top level or money. We all know what he chose. You remember the bonus I talked about? The story of a footballer who, despite betraying the club, he has remained in the hearts of Chelsea fans. I know most people will not agree with me, but let me explain. Eden Hazard had made a name for himself as one of the best players in the world during his time at Chelsea. His final year for Chelsea was special. He came off the bench to give Chelsea a 2-1 win over Liverpool and came up with a solo goal against West Ham. He also scored a brace in the Europa League final in what was his last game for Chelsea. In 2018, Hazard was the star of the dubbed Belgium Golden Generation as he captained his team to the World Cup in Russia. He was the best player of the tournament. The reason I'm saying he betrayed Chelsea is during this time, Chelsea was in deep trouble. They had just been handed a transfer ban. It was at a point where Chelsea needed most of the players to stay because they had to make do with the players available till the transfer ban is lifted. But instead, Hazard chose to leave Chelsea to join Real Madrid in order to take the next step of his career. Well, Chelsea fans love Hazard and gave him a warm welcome when he returned to Stamford Bridge. I'm sure that isn't going to happen when the next player returns next month. You see, Havertz did not stop at celebrating wildly against Chelsea. In an interview before their Champions League clash with PSG, Havertz was asked about winning the Champions League, and he said it would be even better to win it with Arsenal than Chelsea. Chelsea signed Havertz in 2020 for 80 million euros, making him the most expensive signing for the club at the time. In his first season, Havertz helped Chelsea win the Champions League and Club World Cup, scoring in both finals. So, where was the problem, you may ask? Well, Havertz scored very important goals for Chelsea. He never did it on a consistent basis. In his first season, the top scorer for Chelsea in the Premier League was Jorginho with 7 goals, all of which were penalties. Those days were tough. This meant that the coach had to make a lot of changes in his lineup to try and find a solution to the goal-scoring problems of the team. Havertz was played in different positions and still didn't excel. As he continued to underperform, Chelsea fans grew increasingly frustrated with him, and in the end they turned on him. Havertz, being a young player at the time, his confidence got damaged. And when a footballer loses his confidence, he loses his game too. When the new owners came in, they decided to cash in on Havertz before he lost a lot of value. Arteta gave him a chance of a new environment at Arsenal. His confidence at Chelsea had gone very low that even at Arsenal he struggled early on. A perfect example is during their pre-season in MLS All-Star Skills Show. He missed all his 14 chances, becoming the first player in history to do so. And it was even showing in his body language. But Arteta took him under his wing and defended him when he wasn't performing, and his confidence slowly came back. So now he wants to prove himself to the world, and especially Chelsea, that they were wrong about him. After I did a part 1 of this video, people asked me in the comments to talk about these players. Click here to watch part 1.